Law professor and devoted father of two, Dan Markel, was involved in a bitter custody battle with his ex-wife, Wendi Adelson. Wendi wanted to move with the kids from Tallahassee, Florida, 400 miles away, to South Florida to be closer to her mother, Donna, her father, Harvey, and her brother, Charlie. And after Dan Markel was gunned down in his driveway in 2014, that's exactly what she did. Investigators were able to track down the gunman, Latin King gang member Luis Rivera, and his friend Sigfredo Garcia. But why did these men kill Dan Markel? Investigators would come to find a connection. Sigfredo Garcia's longtime girlfriend, Catherine McBanoa, had once dated Wendi Adelson's brother, Charlie. And after the murders, Catherine was collecting cash, checks, and gifts from Charlie. Authorities determined this was a murder for hire orchestrated by Charlie Adelson. After wiretaps, undercover operations, and a murder trial, Charlie Adelson has joined Catherine McBanoa, Sigfredo Garcia, and Luis Rivera behind bars. But now, shocking new developments in the case. Charlie and Wendi's mother, Donna Adelson, has been arrested and charged with orchestrating this murder for hire. Tonight, we get reaction to the latest developments from Dan's mother, Ruth Markel, who joins us live as we continue our investigation into the death and murder of Dan Markel.
I'm Wendi Adelson. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. More big news, more developments in the case involving the murder of Dan Markel. And let's begin where we always begin. Dan Markel was a loving father. That's why he was murdered. That's why he was murdered. That is the reason. This is a man who was in a custody battle. This is a man who was divorced from his wife. That happens. But there was no way he was going to be divorced from his children. There was no way he was not going to be in their lives, financially, emotionally, and physically be there for his children. Now, all of the stress in this custody battle was that Wendi wanted to move to South Florida to be closer to her mother and her family. And the irony tonight as we sit here, think about this. All of this was orchestrated so she could be with her family. If she wants to be with her family now, she's going to have to plead guilty to something and go to prison, because that's where they're all going, folks. One at a time. Started with Charlie, and now the big news, Donna's been charged, and we've got bigger news. She's officially been indicted. We'll get to that in just a moment. But just let that set in for a second. All of this, so a grown woman could be closer to her family, right? That, like I said last night, this was more important than two children having their father, was Wendi being near mommy and daddy and her brother. Well, if that's still the case, it's time to plead guilty to something and send yourself to prison. Because that's what's happening right now with the Adelsons, one at a time. They could all be together. Sort of. Okay. I want to take a look at the bigger picture. I've been at Court TV for so many years, and there have been so many victims and families that I have spoken to through the years, whether it's at the courthouse, on television, off camera, and it's difficult. And each family, each victim goes through it and processes it in a different way. You know, some want nothing to do with it. They don't want to be there. Others, they need to be there. They need to find out everything. Some are emotionally wrecked. Some are angry. They all choose their own path in how to deal with this incredible tragedy. But there's one thing that is so true across the board, is that there's no closure. This does not exist. I don't like to use that word. I talk about it because it's brought up in a different manner. But from all the discussions I've had through the years, it doesn't go away. The loss does not disappear because of what happens inside of a courtroom. The only thing that happens is two things. One, a sense of justice, a sense of, okay, this happened, and this, you know, we'll never get over this, but at least, at a minimum, the people responsible are being held responsible. And the public and the victims and everyone understands what happened and what these people did or person did, regardless of what the case is. And that's important, because I always look at the opposite. If no one is held responsible, and we cover these stories as well here. And this is tough, this is difficult. That's even more difficult when a case isn't solved or someone is not convicted and there's no way you can turn the page because no one is being held responsible for what happened to my son, my brother, my father, my sister, my aunt, my mother, whoever it is. So those are the two aspects I always look at in these cases. And in this one, what we're seeing is that one at a time, people are being held responsible for what happened, but it's taking so much time, so much time. Think about it. Ruth Markel, Dan's mother, has not been through, it's not one trial, but 3 trials so far she has had to sit through to try to process everything that has happened here and go through it and hear the details and see the people, be in the room with the people who are responsible for all of this. And then in this situation, having to see that prosecutors have to cut a deal with people who are responsible in order to get the other people who are responsible. And all of this is not easy to do once. Imagine doing it 3 times and now perhaps a 4th time. A 4th time to go through this? Let's put it up on the board. And I think this 4th time is happening because there's a new indictment tonight, folks. A grand jury in Leon County has indicted Donna Adelson for the murder of Florida State University law professor Dan Markel. Adelson is Dan's former mother-in-law. Donna Adelson faces the following charges: murder in the 1st degree, conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation to commit murder. Okay, this is serious stuff. This is serious stuff. When I practiced law in New Jersey and they had the death penalty, one of the prerequisites, you had to have certain conditions were eligible for the death penalty, which is the worst of the worst. One of them was hiring people to commit a murder was considered part of being the worst of, that's what we're talking about here with the Adelsons, with Charlie and the allegation now against Donna Adelson. Paying to take a life. Why? Will never make sense. Will never make sense. As I mentioned, Dan's mom's been through this 3 times, now perhaps a 4th time. And joining us tonight in Toronto, Ontario, is Dan Markel's mother. She's also the author of The Unveiling, A Mother's Reflection on Murder, Grief, and Trial Life. Ruth Markel is with us tonight. Ruth, thank you so much for joining us. Nice to see you.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your sensitivity to the victim. As you know, many shows are very interested in the crime only and forget the family impact, so I want to say thank you, and thank you for having me again.
And you know, that sentiment I've found through the years is really shared by the folks who watch Court TV as well. So people that are watching at home are feeling the same thing. And so many comments and messages I get are along those lines. So I think there's a lot of people who are with you when you're inside that courtroom, Ruth. Let me start here. I'm going to talk about Donna in a minute, but before we get there, I wanted to get, you're a writer. You wrote this book about this incredible tragedy that you have been through. How would you compare sitting down and writing that book with sitting down and watching these trials? How would you compare those experiences?
Well, I'm going to tell you an interesting way of describing it. Some psychologists have this will a wheel of all the feelings that people can have, ranging from sad, pain, happiness, elation, relief, back to pain and worry. I think that I could tell you honestly that I've been through every one of those feelings, those circumstances. And, writing the book creates looking at the wound. This now has extra dimensions to it because of the fact that we're living out, all of the related issues of going through all of this trauma and so forth. Seeking justice, now it's over 9 years. It's a long, long time. And as you mentioned before, we've been through trials. And one good thing, I wrote the book about the trial life and certainly talked about uncertainty and waiting. That's been the life for over 9 years. So now we're getting a little bit closer. Obviously, the last month or so, we now have two new words, which is conviction for Charlie Adelson and charges for Donna Adelson. So, like, what's happening now is, at least, I would say that the compass is going in the right direction.
As we watched the trial and so many people were seeing you there and trying to imagine what you're going through, where's your focus when you're inside that courtroom? Is it learning the facts? Is it hearing the witnesses? Is it seeing the people who were responsible? Because they came in and they're testifying as well, trying to persuade the jury, or trying to help the state persuade the jury that Charlie Adelson was part of all of this, and certainly they'll be there at Donna's trial as well.
It's everything. First of all, in this last trial, so having Charlie Adelson sit in front of you is very different when you know this person. In the previous trials, we really did not know. We didn't know Garcia, we didn't know Rivera, we didn't know, Catherine. And here you are, like, actually coming for the first time with the people who we feel are the most important to be in the courtroom. And yet at the same time, it's like a crazy experience. But also, I do listen for the evidence. And I think that, Georgia had a really good phrase when she talked about the extortion theory, which I really liked, that it's a layaway plan. And, and that's important, because you come up with these theories from the defense, and you have to really think about, okay, how is the prosecutor going to handle stuff that we all think is really irrelevant or not worthy of any kind of conclusion. So I think there's so much that you feel at the same time, and then of course each witness comes up and you say, okay, did they contribute? Did they not contribute? The very first time I heard Rivera, I was very nervous because he really has to appear credible, and we had friends that were coming down to visit us, and I couldn't go out to dinner that night. I was so worried, and so this is sort of the yo-yo. Really, there's a yo-yo effect.
As we get word now that Donna Adelson tonight has been indicted, that's the big headline. Scripps News Tallahassee got this reporting for us, that she's now officially been indicted. But it seems that she was on her way to Vietnam, a country where extradition is not so easy. It's not so easy if there's an American over there and we want to bring them back to this country to be prosecuted. It's tough to get them to cooperate. What are your thoughts tonight about Donna Adelson and her attempt to flee the country with Harvey?
I think this is really, for me, very good news in the sense that, she thought they're going to get away with it, which is, I think that was the whole premise of their thinking process from day one. Take a shot at it, we're going to make it, and so forth. So here they are in the finale, what they thought maybe is the final escape chapter, and it didn't work. And here's where we really, really have to be grateful to certainly the state attorney, the prosecutors, the FBI was there, Pat Sanford was there last night. And I think it's miraculous that it all came together in such a good sequence of events. Everybody talks about the fact that we really waited a long time, but here justice actually did prevail, and the system worked well. And I want to compliment everybody, because this is not always happening, and certainly didn't happen for us the whole time. So it's 9 years. But we have to really say when it works well, it really was coordinated well.
There's a couple images that were on the screen as you were speaking. One we're looking at now, which is the mugshot of Donna Adelson. And then there's the shot of her in court down in Miami-Dade making that first appearance with the green jacket on, appearing to be, there she is. Did you ever think you were going to see that this day, these images of Donna Adelson locked up behind bars, officially charged with helping mastermind the murder of your son?
Look, I think the whole community of Dan's friends and family and all the outsiders in Tallahassee and around the world were really waiting for this moment. So it happened. And it's a situation now that we want to see move forward. It's a very good situation, finally, and I think that we're waiting for her to be, the next steps for her trial. We don't know when that's going to be yet, but it's in the right direction. It's really in the right direction.
And Ruth, I don't know how much interaction you had with the Adelsons during better times, but in your observations of them as a family, the dynamics, was this a family where Donna was kind of in charge? Was it Harvey? How would you, from your experience, describe the dynamics in that family?
Donna is definitely the architect of most of the initiatives in the family. I would say actually good and bad. The family runs very close and at the same time extremely deceitful with each other. And, Donna approached me just after Danny died, just to give you a character description. I'm sitting all the children, so this means Shelley's 3 children, Danny's 2 children, 3 months after Danny was murdered. We went to this play area, like a museum, a butterfly museum in South Florida. And I'm alone, I'm pensive at that moment. I was really feeling, look, Danny should be here, and I'm sad and everything. And Donna comes over to me and says, Ruth, I talked to Harvey last night, and I don't know who would ever do this in broad daylight. So this is telling you a big story, because at the same time that she knows I'm sitting there in a very pensive, quiet, sad moment, she comes over and she has to, give me a fake attempt at their innocence.
Unreal. Your grandchildren.
Yes, I'm worried.
Wendi Adelson testified in this trial and sort of shocked me, because I've had some discussions with you that, her grandparents, meaning you, have had access to the children from the beginning, always. There's never been any problems there. Was she telling the truth on the stand about that?
No, it actually was very good, because I think Pat Sanford really clarified the fact that we didn't see the children from May 2016, after the arrest of Garcia, and all the way through until 2022, which was just last year after we passed the Markel Act. We did have visits. I have to say, the first 2 years we had visits, but we did have a total lapse of just about 6 years. And in that sense, I would say that Pat Sanford told the truth.
And how about now? What's the status now of being able to speak with?
Well, I have a pre-planned visit with Wendi and the boys in December, and I'm just praying that this continues to be able to see them. I mean, now there's a lot of new issues. I don't know what will happen. I mean, the jury's out, as they say, and we'll have to see, but it's really around the corner. Right. So we'll know soon. I'll come back on the show and I'll tell you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And folks, again, the book, The Unveiling, this is a perspective that I think would be so important for folks at home that watch trials and you see families come through. The Unveiling by Ruth Markel. Please, folks, check that out. And Ruth, thanks again for joining us. All the best to you and your grandchildren.
Thank you and happy holidays.
You too. All right, folks, when we come back, we just mentioned Wendi Adelson. Is it possible that she could be charged with perjury based upon some of her testimony at Charlie's trial? We'll talk about that. Plus, coming up next hour.
Big news tonight in the Long Island serial killer case as the accused murderer heads back to court. So does his estranged wife. Tonight, we speak with the lawyer representing the woman who was married to the accused Long Island serial killer.
I talked about the commonalities, and the commonalities, all of those commonalities that we talked to were unique to these 4 separate cases. So that's what we're working on. I think the other members of the task force said, you know, we're going to continue, and continue to work and investigate and try to get a small measure of closure for all the victims' families.
Worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
A father convicted of locking his son in an 8-by-8-foot box.
Now, Timothy Ferreter will find out how long he'll be locked up.
The Boy in a Box sentencing. Live coverage Thursday, 1:30, 12:30 Central on Court TV.
She asked to speak to me confidentially in a very serious tone of voice. Told me that Charlie had investigated all possible options to take care of the problem of Danny Markel, including hiring a hitman, which would cost about $15,000. And I later revised that and thought maybe it was $50,000, but the dollar amount was the only thing in question. She definitely said that Charles Adelson had looked into hiring a hitman to kill Danny Markel.
Powerful testimony. That's Wendi Adelson's ex-boyfriend, a man she was seeing after her and Dan split and was seeing sort of off and on again right around the time of the murder of Dan Markel. Important testimony right there. But what he said was contradicted directly by Wendi Adelson when she testified in the trial. Take a listen.
Did you say that Charlie, your brother, this defendant, had explored all options to resolve the problem, including hiring a hitman, and it would cost either $15,000 or $50,000?
No.
And did you have a conversation with Jeffrey Lacasse at your residence that night where you said you wanted to share something in confidence with him?
No.
Did you ever say that your brother had seriously hired a hitman where you weren't repeating the joke? You were serious.
Is she lying? Is she committing perjury? Should she be prosecuted for perjury? Let's talk about that right now. You're bringing my guest in Tallahassee, Florida, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Tim Jansen back with us. Also joining us in Bradenton, Florida, body language and voice stress analysis expert Jerry Crotty. Great to have you both here as we dig into this a little bit. Let me start with you, Jerry, though. In taking a listen there to Wendi Adelson, I know there's a short clip there, but what are your thoughts about how she's saying what she's saying, and is there anything there that kind of, you took note of?
Yeah, so I have a lot of notes actually from her testimony. I don't know anything about this case, honestly, and so when I started watching it, I was really curious if everybody thought she was being deceptive. And so the one thing I can tell you is that the gentleman with the glasses on, I don't know who that is either, he was very congruent when he was speaking. The emotions match, everything matched up like it should. However, when she was speaking, there was absolutely no emotion on her face when she's answering the questions. One of the things, I was a law enforcement officer for over 20 years, and 75-80% of that I was an investigator. And one of the things that myself and my partner always said was, if somebody's looking you in the eyes and you can see the bottom of the white on the bottom of their eyes, that's an instant get ready because they're about to lie to you. We called it the three whites of the eyes. I have no idea where that name came from, but I really noticed it with her right out of the gate. And so it really made me kind of sit up and pay attention to exactly what she was saying. I ran those answers through the voice stress analyzer, and there was definitely deception in those answers.
Wow. Okay. Let's take a listen to a little more of Wendi Adelson here, talking about the crime scene, because remember, the morning of the murder, she gets in the car and she's going someplace and she sort of takes a roundabout way there. Here's what she said about that on the stand.
Did you go to the crime scene or very near the crime scene on your way from your residence to, I guess, to lunch or to wherever you were going next?
No, I did not.
So you never turned on Trescott Drive that day?
I went to turn on Trescott Drive, but I saw that it had been blocked off by some tape, and so I just kept driving on Centerville.
Okay, and when you had to turn around at the tape, right, to go back out?
I think I tried to turn right, and it couldn't turn, so I would have made like the kind of turn, like a K-turn, and kept going.
Was there a roadblock there with?
There was tape.
Yeah, and an officer was there?
I didn't see an officer, but I did see a car.
A law enforcement marked vehicle? Okay, did you have any contact with the officer?
No.
Okay. Did you do anything after that to try to find out what was going on down that roadway?
No, I just assumed it was weather or maybe a tree fell.
I just want to note, I love the prosecutor's style throughout the trial. It was amazing. Now let's take a listen to Officer Bill Brannon from the Tallahassee Police describing the same situation.
From the roadblock where you were positioned, could you see the crime scene?
Yes.
Would it have been obvious to someone approaching your position in a vehicle that there was activity, law enforcement activity going on at that residence?
It seems likely.
Did you know at the time that Wendi Adelson drove this type of vehicle?
Yes.
All right, so you noticed this vehicle or a vehicle identical to this one approach your position?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did the vehicle do when it approached your position?
Just stopped pretty quick and turned around and headed back in the other direction.
All right, Tim Jansen, can you break it down for us? Because everyone thought this was a little strange that Wendi Adelson is testifying at this trial as a state witness. She gets some level of immunity. Can you break down that immunity and why that could make it difficult to actually prosecute her for the murder? And then give me your take on pursuing potential perjury charges here.
Absolutely, Vinny. She was given derivative use immunity, meaning anything she said at the trial could not be used against her, and they couldn't take her words to go out and find evidence that was derivatively used. But she was not protected from perjury. So if she commits perjury, she can be prosecuted. She's testified in 3 trials. What's important in Charlie's trial was that they filed a motion in limine to keep out Lacasse's statement about hiring the hitman. The judge sustained it because it was hearsay. And Wendi had already testified. So when Charlie was going to testify, it was sustained. They had to recall Wendi. Wendi had to deny it. Then they recalled him for impeachment, and then it was admissible. So the problem with the prosecuting Wendi is the lack of evidence and the Castigar issues with the derivative use. But she could be prosecuted with perjury, and it's not unheard of. Remember the Parkland shooting, Scott Peterson, that police officer was charged with perjury. Now, he was found not guilty, but perjury in this case is on a capital offense like this, is a second-degree felony punishable by 30 years. And if she testified in 1 or 2 trials, you could stack those perjury counts. And the car going by the scene, relatively easy to prove with the phone where she was, and Centerville Road and that Trescott is right there. And who's the witness against her? A sworn law enforcement officer. who recognized her car. So they may not get her on murder, but they may get her on perjury. You know, Al Capone didn't get convicted of murder. He got convicted of tax evasion.
That's right.
He still went to prison.
That's right. And you look at O.J. Simpson. He got jammed up for trying to get his memorabilia back. Okay, let's take a listen to more now of Wendi Adelson's testimony. Here talking about this so-called celebration dinner.
After the murder, do you recall going to a dinner where you got sick at the table?
It was about a month later, and yes, I remember.
Where did that dinner occur? Was that here in Tallahassee or somewhere else?
No, it was in Miami.
All right, and was it like out at a restaurant?
It was at a restaurant.
All right, and when we say you got sick at the table, did you actually vomit at the table?
I threw up at the table.
All right, and did you ever hear your brother refer to that particular dinner as a celebratory dinner?
No.
Did you tell Jeffrey Lacasse that your brother called that a celebratory dinner?
I did not.
Was that a...
One moment, Ms. Calvin.
Yes, sir.
The objection.
Hearsay.
Overruled.
Was that dinner a celebration of the murder of your ex-husband?
Absolutely not. That dinner was the first time I left my house after over a month because I was terrified. And if it was a celebration of anything, it was a celebration that I was willing to leave the house and eat a meal.
During one of those phone calls, did you learn about a dinner where Wendi had become ill at the table?
Yes, I did learn about that.
And what did you learn about that dinner?
That she went out to dinner with Charlie for what he called a celebration dinner. He said something to her. She spontaneously vomited on the table.
And this would have been within how much time after the homicide?
Within a few weeks.
Was it specified that the celebration was in reference to Dan Markel's death as opposed to anything else?
Wasn't specified.
Okay. But whatever it was, that's the dinner where she vomited.
That's right.
All right, Jerry Crotty, how about Wendi Adelson here?
Okay, so I have a lot of notes on this part right here because it gets kind of, right out of the gate, you can clearly see that you can see the bottom of her eyes when she's speaking. Again, that's the three whites of the eye, so I started really paying attention to what she was saying. When she starts out, she's very spontaneous with her answers about asking if she vomited at the restaurant and things like that. But then when she gets to the part to where it really starts to count, she closes her eyes when she answers, and that's indicative of somebody that just doesn't want to see the reaction of the person that they're speaking to when they do it. And then again, I analyzed her response about the celebratory dinner, and again, there was stress indicated on that response from her. The attorney asked her if the dinner was a celebration of the murder of your ex-husband. Now, that's a pretty direct accusatory question. There should be some type of emotion displayed during that question. And the answer should be no, and it should be right away. She begins shaking her head no before she's even to the point to where she's asking if it was about murdering the husband. And so she already knew this question was coming. She's anticipating it. And then her answer was just the worst answer you could give, which was absolutely not. You actually hear her voice crack when she's giving it. Again, I analyzed that as well. And again, there's deception indicated on that response as well. And then when she's answering the questions that are the most important, the head nodding begins to kind of fail on her. She's not doing it like she was before. And so when you compare it to when she was answering the questions about, when we know she's being truthful, and when it counts, it changes. So again, it's not congruent. And then the thing I thought that was really interesting was at the very end of her statement, she flashed a micro expression just a little bit, which to me looked like duping delight, which basically means you think you're getting one past somebody. And then she finished it up with pursed lips. And then the best was, she does a lot of contradicting herself when she speaks. Did you drive past the crime scene? No. Did you drive? But I drove up to the road though where it was at. So she contradicted herself there. But when they said it's not a celebration, and then at the very end she says, but if it was a celebration, it was the fact that I was going out of the house to get a meal for the first time. So
unbelievable.
Yeah. So she's having a hard time telling the truth.
Yeah. All right. Stay where you are, guys. When we come back, we'll take a look at Donna Adelson. Don't go anywhere.
A father convicted of locking his son in an 8-by-8-foot box.
Now, Timothy Ferreter will find out how long he'll be locked up.
The Boy in a Box sentencing. Live coverage Thursday, 1:30, 12:30 Central on Court TV.
Mrs. Adelson? How you doing? Just want to give you this. Listen. No, don't be scared. Listen, just want to let you know that we know that your family has been taking care of Katie and her friend Hugo for quite some time after your problem up north has been resolved. And I want to let you know that my brother, he's incarcerated. He helped your family with this problem you guys had up north. And we want to make sure that he's going through some rough times. And we want to make sure that you take care of what he's going through, the way you're taking care of Katie and Tuco. Well, this will explain it. Thank you.
The infamous bump, the bump of Donna Adelson on the street by an undercover, trying to shake things up a little bit a couple of years after the murder of Dan Markel to get the Adelsons talking. And guess what? The Adelsons started talking. And a lot of those recordings were used against them. Still with us, Tim Jansen and Jerry Crotty. Tim, this is, like, I looked at this and I'm like, well, this undercover isn't really very convincing as an undercover, but at the end of the day, it got the job done here because they reacted, the Adelson family, to all this, including Donna.
Yeah, they found the weakest link, and they knew that Donna would flip. He's retired FBI now, but look at her demeanor. Most anybody else would scream, would walk away, would say, I don't know what you're talking about. No, she wants information. She wants to know what he's saying. She's taking it all in. She folds a piece of paper, puts it in her purse, and goes and gets her grandkids. She was cool, calm, and collective, but she was trying to get information.
Jerry Crotty, your analysis of this bump.
So this is the first time I've seen this video, and I can tell you that there's a point where, she touches the side of her head, and that's indicative of fight or flight. They tell you, like, in academies and things like that, the head is a bad place to touch when you're dealing with somebody. And it's interesting that she did that. And so I think that, she was a little worried just from looking at that. But yeah, you're right. She should have, like, walked away, called the cops at some point and said, like, I just had this guy approach me and give me all this information. I have no idea what he's talking about. I mean, all this stuff going on in their lives. And all of a sudden this guy comes up and starts speaking the way he is, you had nothing wrong or you didn't do anything wrong at all. That's not a very good reaction to it.
Adelsons don't call the police. I've noticed that. The Adelsons don't call police. Okay, now, she did call police, though, but I don't know if she knew they were police, but maybe she did. That number that she got, she eventually ends up calling. Let's take a listen to that.
I don't know your friend who is in jail. You mentioned a name. I don't even know his name. I never spoke to him. I don't know what he looks like. I've never met him. I'm sorry your friend's in jail, but I don't know what that has to do with me.
You know exactly what it has to do with. You know exactly what. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me. Listen to me. You just got to listen to me.
You need to ask your friend who this person looks like, what their name is, something, because I know there's a big reward out there, and if you need money for your friends, that's the way to get it. I mean, I'm asking you nicely. I don't know who he is. I am out of the loop. It is not me.
All right, Jerry Crotty, what do you think of Donna Adelson there? What are you hearing?
So when she's speaking, it's a completely tone change when she's talking. So she's absolutely nervous what she's saying. I can tell you from experience that this is not the normal response to, you know, somebody approaching you and making the phone call. And I mean, who would not call the police if something like this was going on and you were completely innocent of doing anything wrong? She knows exactly what she's doing. She's trying to pull information out of the person that she's speaking to. You know, she's definitely, she seems innocent, but she's good at what she does.
Tim Jansen, prosecutor's going to play this in Donna's trial?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait till you play the part where she said, I talked to 10 or 12 of my friends and described what happened. I doubt she talked to 10 or 12 of her friends and said what was happening to her. She's being extorted. She's lying. She believes it's the FBI or the cops, and she's trying to cover for herself and tell them to go get the money from the reward.
Unbelievable. At the end of the day, Tim, do you think it stops with Donna Adelson? Do you think Harvey and or Wendi could be charged for the murder?
Well, we know what happened last night. State attorney came out and said, we don't have enough to charge Harvey. Harvey was released. He was never going to be charged. I don't know unless they get more evidence. Now, Campbell said today they have more evidence than what's been presented at the last trial. We don't know if that's evidence against Wendi. We don't know if that's evidence against Harvey, or if it's more evidence against Donna. But her flight, she just sealed her fate. That consciousness of guilt is going to come in. Her jail calls, her suicide, getting her things in order. Clearly, she knew she was going to be indicted, and that is a powerful inference to the jury that she's guilty.
Absolutely. Tim Jansen, Jerry Crotty, awesome job tonight. Appreciate it, guys. I know your time is valuable. We'll see you again really, really soon.